Hi, and welcome to Dogman Teepee Hunting. My name's Phil Cottville, and if you're listening to this, it will probably be on the Interdimensional Voyages podcast. And I want to say Merry Christmas to everybody. And I hope you have a really happy New Year. Today I've got quite a famous guy in the cryptozoology world and Bigfoot world. His name is Dr. Mathew Johnson, and doesn't really need very much more of an introduction than that. So I shall bring him on now. And hello, Doctor.
Hi, Phil.
How are you doing? You okay?
I am. Thank you
Good,
for
good.
having me on your show.
Hey, listen, thank you for coming on. It's been we've been missing each other a little bit, but eventually we did make it. And Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you as well, and a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah, indeed. Happy New Year to you as well. I love this time of year. It's great. Um, do you mind if we, because there's an awful lot to unpack with what's been going on recently. But at first, for people that may not know about you, you're basically a big you're a Bigfoot guy, right? But you're way beyond that. You are in touch with the Council of 12, which is a council run by the Xanue. Is that right?
The Xanue, yes.
The Xanue.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You weren't born knowing all of this. How did it briefly happen?
Well, I grew up in Oregon. Then I moved to Alaska on a basketball scholarship to the University of Alaska and stayed up in Alaska for quite a while. So I grew up in the outdoors and had been around bear and moose and wolves and anything you could think of, and then eventually moved my family back down to Oregon because we got tired of the long, dark, cold nights in Alaska and all the snow. And so on July 1st, 2000, so almost 25 years ago, we went for a hike through the caves, and then we came out of the caves and we went up the mountain. Most people go back down the mountain to the guest area and to the shop. And we went up the mountain about a mile, and we, to make a long story short, ran into Bigfoot. We smelled it, we heard him, and then saw him. And then I had a choice at that time. I would either cower and never go back out into the woods again after what I saw, or get back up on the horse, go into the woods, grab Bigfoot by the scruff of the neck, pull him out to show him to the world that they're real and I'm not crazy. But in reality, they grabbed me by the scruff of the neck, dragged me into the woods, and showed me who they are, where they're from, and why they're here.
Okay. And from that day onwards, obviously you were almost in turns, you were kind of taken into their confidence at that time onwards.
Not from day one. Matt Moneymaker for the Bigfoot Field Research Organization, otherwise known as BFRO, took me under his wings and taught me a lot about their approach to Bigfooting, which most of your viewers probably saw on the Finding Bigfoot TV series. And so that's what I did for the first 10 years of my research was their approach to Bigfooting, whacking on trees, Bobo screams, anything and everything you could think of that we saw on Finding Bigfoot, which turned out to be, after I believe 10 seasons, how not to find Bigfoot. And I did their approach for 10 years. We got tracks. We got an occasional tree knock. We got, an occasional scream back. And they were definitely around our tents at night when we were sleeping inside the tents. But I wanted more. And that was 10 years. I gave 10 years of my life to that. And I'm like, I'm not giving another 10 years for this. I want more. So I'm a psychologist by profession. I've been working in the mental health field for 42 years. and I'm a problem solver. And so I decided to switch things up. So I took the North American Indian approach that they are a people. They're not dumb giant mountain apes. They're not descendants of Gigantopithecus, which they claim to have a fossil record for over in China. But that fossil record found in a cave in China consists of one tooth and a partial jawbone. And from
Mm,
that, they erected a 10-foot Gigantopithecus and
mm,
then theorized that Bigfoot descended from that, came over the land ice bridge over the Bering Sea, and we have Bigfoot. That is not who they are. That's not how they got here. But I liked the North American Indian approach that they are a people, not a dumb giant mountain ape. And then I begged, borrowed, and stole from Dr. Um, Jane Goodall and
mm,
the habituation approach to her chimps, and
mm.
started getting a lot of different results after I switched over.
Okay, right. Okay, so the results when you switched tack and you decided to um, adopt a more what's the word?
Respectful.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, because you refer to them as forest people. That's how you
Yes.
like to but then um, and you believe in a respectful, so no pointing even. You don't point at them, you don't take photographs. Um,
Nope, that's not how I define respectful. Respectful is defined as number one, thinking of them as a people instead of a dumb giant mountain ape, which switches up your whole approach to trying to interact with them. Instead of throwing the food on the ground with cameras pointing at the food on the ground, and that's a bait pile, meaning you're baiting in a dumb giant mountain ape. I switched it up to clean stainless steel bowls, food in the
mm,
bowls, put the bowls out 150 feet away from camp, talk to them while we're putting the bowls out, sing to them while we're putting the bowls out, walk back to the base camp and let them have at it. Now, keep in mind, it took 5 years of doing that before they started taking the food. And when they started taking the food, they were very picky about what food they took, and they started leaving fingerprints on the
mm.
bowls.
Okay, right. You know when they take the food, do you find that if you bait it with because I've tried using uh, baiting techniques as
See,
well,
no,
and
no,
I
no,
find
no. I'm sorry.
mm,
So baiting is for dumb giant mountain apes. Gifting bowls
mm,
is you're gifting to a person. So
yeah,
that's what I'm talking about with the whole respect thing, is
mm,
changing the way we think and perceive how we're interacting with them and what we're doing. I
mm,
no longer was baiting dumb giant mountain apes. I was gifting
mm.
food to forest people.
Yeah, fully understand that, and I wasn't pertaining to forest people.
Okay.
So that's fine. But no, what I was going to say was that they tend to like the sweet stuff, the breads, the almost the natural like carrots and grapes and vegetables. They don't really touch, but they do tend to go for the sweeter things, the rolls, the maybe a few like cheese puffs and things like that. They tend to take those more. Do you ever find that? Do they tend to take those more than they do fruit and vegetable?
Okay, so I'll answer that question in just a second. But when you're talking to me, are you talking about like when you're trying to interact with dogmen?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
okay, so when I'm trying to interact with the Xanue, the Bigfoot forest people, I put out a whole lot of bowls before I realized that they weren't taking the vegetables or the fruit, um, and they wouldn't take the meat. What they wanted eventually, it took me a while and a whole lot of time and money. But I finally figured out they wanted bread products because they could get everything else out in the wild. They could get fruit, they
Mm,
could get vegetables, they could get meat, they could get whatever they wanted, but they couldn't get bread. And so they loved the bread, and especially the family group that I was working with liked peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and to be specific, they liked wheat bread, not white bread. They liked creamy peanut butter, not chunky peanut butter, and they liked raspberry jam, not any other type of jam.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's they're quite particular, really, aren't they?
They
When you,
can be.
yeah, they are quite particular. And you've managed to get prints off of the. Are they? Did they look quite big? Are they from the point of view of from the index to the thumb? Is it quite much larger? Is it around the bowl?
Okay, so we're dealing with a family group, so it depends on who touches the bowl. Dad's hand is much bigger than my hand, and
Mm,
I'm 6'9", just so your
okay.
audience knows. I'm almost 7 feet tall. My hand is big enough to palm a basketball,
Mm,
and the adult male's hand like dwarfed my hand. But then mom's hand is smaller, and then they have kids, and those hands get smaller. So it depends on who touches the bowl. We've had the whole bottom covered with palm print and fingers up the side of the rim. And we've had little kid prints with little tiny fingers and a little tiny palm. And
mm,
we lifted those prints off the bowls and off the windows of the vehicles.
mm,
And my wife works for a large law enforcement agency in the state of Washington, and she took those prints to the fingerprint expert whose hobby was to go up to the Seattle Zoo and
mm.
lift prints off the primates, off their hands and off their feet. And he looked at these prints and he said, well, they're not human. And then he looked at them and he said, they're unlike any primate print I've ever worked with at the Seattle Zoo. And then his face lit up. He was like, Bigfoot. He said, these
Right.
are
Yeah.
Bigfoot prints. And my wife laughed and said, yep.
Okay. Have you gained enough prints to actually sort of piece together maybe like a montage of prints, like kind of like you can identify individual prints, or are they individualistic? Have they got like
We,
one set of
I
prints?
would
Or
say we've lifted up enough prints to prove that they were handling the bulls. And just for the record, I would put on surgical gloves, clean the bulls out inside,
mm,
outside, wipe them
yeah.
down so none of our fingerprints were on the bulls, and deliver the bulls 150 feet away from camp with the gloves on at sunset, and then pick those bulls up the very next morning at sunrise with surgical gloves on. So that way we were not leaving any prints on those bulls.
Okay.
So any
Okay.
prints found were the Xanue, not us.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. That's good. That's what's needed. Uh, but I mean, with that in mind, getting the prints and using stainless steel bowls for the very fact of gaining prints, that was premeditated by yourselves to do that. Uh,
Yes.
now, and that's great. But what is the modus operandi when it comes to because it's very what I can't get. It's very very difficult. If you can't take photographs, um, and I understand, you have to be respectful. I get that. And this is true. This is very true. You are true in that. There's no good when I see a lot of people on TV and different channels and they go in and they start beating trees and shouting and almost goading, you know, a, a,
Yeah.
a creature, let's say an entity that has been around long, long, long before they were even a twinkle in their father's eye. So, I agree with you there. That as respect is important, but also from your side of things, how it's almost like how do you know yourself like I do to a certain degree. You know yourself because you've experienced it, but it's very hard to um, transfer that experience to anybody else unless you back it up with some form of verifiable evidence. Have you ever kind of considered, look, maybe hair samples at least, or um, some kind of photography to just capture it. If you ever wanted to, have you been tempted to? You must have done when you worked for BFRO. You must have
Well, I
done that.
didn't work for BFRO. Matt Moneymaker took me under his wings, and I learned from him and I implemented their approach, but I was never associated with BFRO. And matter of fact, Matt Moneymaker took me under his wings and started asking me to send all the media inquiries regarding my family's story to him. And I
Mm,
told him, dude, it wasn't your encounter, it was my family's encounter, and they're contacting me because they want to talk with me about my family's encounter. They don't want to talk with you about my family's encounter. And then he
mm,
kicked me to the curb. But getting back to pictures,
mm,
the old school approach is you throw the food on the ground. That's a bait pile. You're baiting in a dumb giant mountain ape, and then they have these trail cams pointed at the food. So when the dumb giant mountain ape comes in to get the food, then they'll get them on camera. And
mm,
that never works because they could tell when we had the camera on, they wouldn't touch the food. And then when we turned the camera off, they got the food. When we turned it on, they left the food alone. When we turned it off, they got the food. So
mm,
eventually I stopped that whole approach, switched over like I talked about earlier, including no more trail cams. I use passive technology of using a parabolic microphone dish on the top of my Suburban and base camp. And
mm,
I started recording a whole lot of spoken language. And a parabolic microphone dish can record up to a whole football field away,
mm.
American or soccer, whichever way you want to do it.
Yeah.
And so it picks up that passive uh, technology and the sound. And then one last thing, the Xanue will mind speak with me, telepathy, and actually request me to take their pictures. And I do, and I have a plethora of pictures, foot casts, audio recordings with spoken language, singing, humming. I have multiple witnesses that I took up with me up into the mountains, and we have multiple witnesses on our property where we host monthly Camp Xanues during the summer. And so I have everything backed up.
Okay.
And so I have a plethora of evidence and multiple witnesses to confirm what I've been saying,
Okay.
like
And
about 500 multiple witnesses.
no, that's a lot. That is a lot. Yeah. No, 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 that is a lot. Because it's kind of in what I do. It's quite frustrating because I experience stuff. I try and video it. It's a different cryptid entirely, if you like. It's a different being, a different entity. But I try and photograph it. I have a theory why it can't be photographed. It's a little bit like Bigfoot. When you go to photograph, sorry, when you put a Xanue and you photograph it, and it kind of like you see it morph out. It almost like Predator. It sort of morphs out and goes past. I have a theory for that, but it's the same with Dogman, same type of thing. But I try and take photographs. I tell you why I do, because I'm so frustrated, Dr. J, so frustrated because a lot of people they don't outside of my immediate group wouldn't believe me. They don't believe. They go, what? Dog, what are you on, Phil? No, 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 no. What you're saying? A cryptid's out there running about? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It looks like a dog. Yeah, yeah, yeah. On two legs. Yeah, no, 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 no. Can you prove it? Well, no, not really. No, because it's like kind of not following me home. Luckily, but it's that's why I take photographs so that it gives gives it more credibility than just my experience up here of what I've had. Does that ever frustrate you? That Did you ever think But you've got photographic evidence.
And foot casts and fingerprints and a
Mm,
3 foot turd, and multiple witnesses and spoken
mm,
language recorded. Yeah, it
mm,
used to bother me because I wanted to prove to the world that Bigfoot existed and I'm not crazy, they're real. And
mm,
then, I hit the point where I have all this interaction. I know they're real, and everyone around me who interacts with them knows they're real. And so I'm no longer caught up in, you either believe me or you don't. And if you don't,
Mm,
that's fine. You're
mm,
entitled to your own opinion. It doesn't matter to me anymore. There's
yeah.
plenty of people out there who do believe me, and they actually take the time to come to camp and have the interactions. And the
Mm,
other part I forgot to tell you about proof is
yeah.
the Xanue are a people of faith. They walk in a belief and faith in God and in Christ, and they heal by faith in Christ. So we've had people healed from cancer, irreversible eye disease, heart problems. I had a blood clot removed from my leg that went from my groin to my
Mm,
knee. I should be dead. I should have been dead 12 years ago. But I'm alive. We've had people with their legs grow an inch to match the other leg. Uh,
mm,
a foot at birth that was crippled got healed. We had a woman from Phoenix, Arizona, who had 3 strokes, crippled half side of her body, and came to camp with her husband. And by the end of the 3rd day, she passed over her braces, was jumping up and down, running up and down the hillside. Her husband could not keep up with her, and that happened in front of 40 witnesses.
see, that's incredible. That is, and now that is very akin to accounts I've spoken to one chap in particular, Native American, and they have rituals where they call in I'm not going to say Xanue. They call it like a wild man or a Bigfoot, basically. Let's call it that because everyone's sort of like, But so they call in one of these entities, Xanue, Bigfoot, and they do heal. They call it in, and it comes, and it does heal. So it's gone some properties. It has something around it, something which has got healing powers, and does seem to have more of a love for us than other creatures I can mention. It seems to have anyway, and the Native Americans, they do are keen to get across that this wild man Bigfoot Xanu is it's one of those things. The way you treat it. If you treat it like crap, it's going to be crap. It's going to just beat the crap out of you. But it's an entity which is there to help, very much so, and it's a being which is there to try and improve matters on Earth rather than be, sort of bring destruction, really. Um, so yeah, it does back up what you say an awful lot. What?
For the record, the Xaneu are the Bigfoot forest people, and then there's the Tracon. The Tracon are Bigfoot-like in appearance. They're shorter, 6 to 8 feet tall, 9 feet at the most. They were brought to the earth a long time ago, long before we were ever here, to help mine the planet for the Anunnaki. And so they were shanghaied from a different planet, brought here to mine the earth. Once they got everything they wanted, they let them go. They didn't take them back home. They just left them here on the earth. And so the
Mm,
Tracon are solid meat sack entities like you and me. We're
mm.
solid.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
so the Tracon are more menacing, they're uglier, and they retreat to the deep wilderness to stay away from humans because there was a history of some battles and they always got their butts kicked by the humans. So they retreated into the wilderness. So if a lone hiker, a lone camper, um, anybody walking through their territory, they're going to be killed, eaten, and their bones are going to be scattered. So the aggressive, angry, kidnapping, murdering Bigfoot are the Tracon. The Xaneu are not murderers. They don't harm humans. And the Xaneu, because they're not locked into their meat sacks, because they didn't fall in the garden like we did,
Mm.
They remained the beings that God created them to be, which is why they fellowship with God in Christ. And they are able to shape shift in and out of an orb form into their body form, but their body form vibrates at a higher frequency than ours does, which
Mm.
takes them out of our visual field of range. We can see so much, and then they exist outside of what we can see, kind of
Mm.
like a propeller on a small plane when the engine's off. You can see the propeller when the engine starts and the propeller's going around. Then all of a sudden
Mm.
you can't see it anymore, or you can barely see the vibration, like the Predator in an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, or the
Mm.
coming off a highway in Arizona during the summer. And so you can see that shimmering image. And then dogs can see him, cats can see him because their eyes are different than ours. So if a dog
Mm.
or a cat's looking at something in the house or in the yard and growling at it, and you're going, "What's up?" There's nothing there.
Mm. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's something there. Take pictures. And then
Yeah.
that leads to the whole thing of, why are all the pictures blurry about Bigfoot? Well, I just told you, because they vibrated a higher frequency. That's why their pictures are blurry. And nobody ever takes a picture of, the shimmering image. What you have people doing is they're just taking scenic pictures of forest or the backyard and all this kind of
Mm.
stuff. They don't even see the Bigfoot until they sit down with their camera, start going through their pictures, and then all of a sudden
Mm.
they zoom in and it's like, what the heck is that? I didn't see
Yeah.
that there. Well, it was because it was vibrating at a higher image and your eyes couldn't see it, but dogs can, cats can, and cameras can capture them, and that's
Yeah.
why the pictures are blurry.
Do you know, I think you are definitely along the right lines. I once saw, I was out in the woods, and it's quite a long way in. I was about an hour's walk in. So I was like, walking in, and uh, I saw some deer. I was with my dogs, got two Jack Russell Terriers, one's part Chihuahua, he's a bit crazy. But anyway, they started like kind of pointing and sort of growling a bit. And I saw in the distance there was three deer, lovely, lovely deer they were. And they just stopped like statues. So I videoed this, set up the video really quickly, started videoing. Then the dogs got very, very agitated, Dr. J, really agitated, and they started circling me. So they started with their, and I put them on their leads because I thought, no, I'm not going to get them, get them eaten. So I put them on the leads, and they kind of like, I tried to untangle the leads. I got the video up and running again. 1 minute, less than a minute later, and what I caught was in the distance. What these deer were looking at was a golden shimmering statue, and you could see it rose up from the ground and just went like that, and it was golden and shimmering. The most interesting part, get this, when I checked the film afterwards, I saw a large Bigfoot creature coming out from the woods towards this golden creature. Anyone would say, "Wow, golden creature," would be like kind of, and it was very bright, very, very bright. And I got it all on video. Fantastic, really good footage. And I thought, wow, that's excellent, really, really great. But I'm getting out of here because it wasn't the Bigfoot coming out of the forest that I saw. It was just a golden statue, but it emanated such foreboding for such a beautiful thing. It was so foreboding and so kind of just oh, it was a feeling of just stay away, just don't come anywhere near. So that's what I did. I just like got up, took the dog, said, "Now come on, let's get out there. Let's go, let's go." I believe that when people see them and, like you said, and they sort of shimmer out and they kind of do a predator thing. I think that's because if you can imagine that we're on a frame of time, yeah, and our frame of time's going at 35 frames per second. If there's another frame which is going 36 frames per second, we will see that go past, and then it will just fade out because it's on a slightly different frame of time to us, if you like. And I think that that's basically why we see these things. They're almost like avatars, Dr. J, and we may be avatars to them. You know, And I think that could be something which accounts for an awful lot of sightings that you can't get clear photographs. You're not going to get clear photographs because, especially with digital cameras anyway, but digital cameras work with the sensor at a certain rate, ISO, focal point, and it's not going to capture it because it's on a tightly different frame rate to what we're on. But once again, it's all theory. It's all theory, so I can't, back it up with anything solid. But yeah, it just seems to be something which could be. Can I ask you? I've heard that you got a machine that you use for portals and things like that, or for calling in the Xanue.
Well, so during my journey of, the first 10 years old school and then switching over, in 2014, a portal was accidentally discovered at the Southern Oregon Habituation Area, otherwise known as SOA, by a couple of gentlemen who were visiting, Adam Davies and John Carlson. We had 2 nights of Bigfoot activity from the 9 o'clock to the 12 o'clock to the 3 o'clock position on the perimeter. And by the third night, they were freaked out, so they were staying away from that area. They were on the other side of the Suburban, smoking backwoods cigars and engaged in nervous joke telling and laughter. And then they started walking toward the 6 o'clock position on the perimeter, which was a logging road that came up to the base camp. And so I'm sitting in base camp looking at the 12 o'clock, interacting with the Bigfoot, and they're yelling my name, Matt, come here. And I'm a little miffed. It's like, you guys come here. This is where the activity is. You came all the way to interact. Come here. And they're like, no, come here. So I finally get up and walk around the Suburban, and boom, there's the portal. And I'm like, whoa. And they go, what is that? I said, I don't know. I said, I've been up here for 8 years. I've never seen that before. What did you guys do? And they said, we just walked towards it, and it opened up. And so it took a year for me to problem solve and figure out how that portal got opened up. And I finally put it together. I would take my guests to the Oregon Vortex, or the House of Mystery, Oregon House of Mystery, outside of Grants Pass, Oregon. And, there's a lot of electromagnetic energy in that area that distorts perception. And apparently we were bringing back that residual energy on our bodies back to camp. So, and Adam and John had that residual energy on their body the year before. And so when they walked near the portal, that's how they were opening it up. And the year later, in the summer of 2015, we were opening up that portal repetitively with several witnesses. And so after that happened, we had somebody threw SOA under the bus, and trolls came into camp and filmed themselves pissing all over the camp and drinking beer and declaring the whole camp a hoax and leaving in 15 minutes later, and put the coordinates out for the rest of the world to know where the camp was. And so my wife and I felt like we got kicked in the gut. So we thought everything was over. And then I got a telepathy and mind speak saying, we're going to take you to a new camp. And I'm like, okay. So we were at an interim camp in between the old and the new camp. And I got approached around 2 a.m, woken up from my sleep from Onks, who told me about the history of the Xanue how they came from one planet, their home world, to the Earth. And the story is so much longer, and I'm trying to simplify it and shorten
Yeah,
it.
sure. Yeah.
And they asked if I would help them get the rest of their family members from their dying home world to the Earth, because when the Xanue travel through a portal, they can only go through themselves. They can't take anybody with them. And only 25% of their population has the ability to manipulate the portals to go through it. So they wanted me to help them with a shunt. And I said, a shunt? Yeah, a shunt. And I said, you mean a stent? No, not a stent, which is for hearts, right? They want a shunt.
Yeah.
Shunt wasn't in my vocabulary. I didn't know what a shunt was. They did. I didn't. And so I did some, looked up in the dictionary afterwards, and it's using electric energy to keep it open between 2 points. That's a shunt. Okay.
Okay.
And so I was on Coast to Coast AM with Bob Gimlin and talked about the portal and everything related to the portal. And then afterwards, the next day, I got contacted by a retired physicist from MIT who had been researching the Bermuda Triangle and the portals there. And he wanted to come to SOA to see that portal. And I'm like, well, yay. The Xanue wanted me to put together a team to help them with the portals and the shunt to get the people over from their dying home world. So this is the perfect guy. Well, a week later, we're talking on the phone, and he said, we need to kill one of those Bigfoot and bring the body in for science. And I'm like,
what?
Yeah, exactly. You're off the team. I never called him back again. So then I'm back to square one. And then all of a sudden I get this email like days later from Steve Bachman out of Buckley, Washington, a small little hick town, beautiful area. And he said, I'm a armchair researcher. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. There's only two guys, I believe, some guy in Florida and you live closer to me than the guy in Florida. Can I come with you to your camp in Oregon? And by the way, I build homes, I remodel homes, I take care of commercial buildings, I refurbish antique tractors, and I have a picture attached to the bottom of this email of an electromagnetic pulsating device that I made based on Tesla's designs. And I'm like, what? And I look at the picture and I'm like, this is the guy we need. So I invited him up and he came to camp with us. And that machine we turned on after we met with the Council of 12 up on the mountain top, which was an incredible experience. And they told us to turn it on. And so we're at the base camp up in the mountains, 5,500 foot elevation in the middle of freaking nowhere in the pitch dark. And we turn on the machine and we sit in our chairs, and you can literally hear heavy flat-footed steps running to the back of the truck where the machine was running, and they would charge themselves up with energy, and then they would run back through the trees, through the forest to the portal area. And there was this endless line like a Chinese fire brigade passing the buckets or whatever. And they're doing all this, and you can hear it. You can't see them, but you can hear the heavy flat-footed running back and forth. And they managed to get through like 1,500 souls that night before the deep cycle marine batteries drained. And Steve had to tell him, you can't take the energy from the batteries. You need to take it from the spinning wheel that has 16 powerful magnets. And so the energy would go from the batteries through the inverter to the wheel. The wheel would kick the energy back through the inverter to the batteries and keep the batteries charged, which would send energy. And then it would kick off free energy. And Steve said, you got to take the free energy and use that and leave the batteries alone. So the second night we used it and we completed the Exodus, and we got everybody from the dying home world to the earth. So now at Camp Xanue on our property, we'll set up the machine, we'll have everybody around, we'll turn it on, and then you can literally take pictures of the Xanue coming to that machine, because essentially to them, it's an energy snack bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they come up to the machine to get the energy.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then one last thing while I'm thinking about it and your viewers are watching, there's all this theoretical, silly stuff going on about how they travel the power lines and they follow the elk herds and they migrate and all that. No, they don't. No, the reason why they're walking the trails along the power lines in Colorado, in a lot of other states, is because guess what? They're power lines, energy. They
Right.
walk those trails, get the energy from the power lines. It has nothing to do with following elk herds.
Okay. Right. Is there anything to do with, when people say that they follow, streams, rivers, they can't be too far away from streams and rivers. Maybe because of, quartz in the rock, and as the water goes past the quartz, it activates. Do you think there's anything to do with that, like streams and rivers that
Um,
they
okay, so the Xanue, as I told you earlier, can go into orb form,
Mm,
and they get most of their sustenance by going into the trees during the day, and they get the energy from the sun and the nutrients from the roots, and that's where they get 95% of their sustenance. Then
okay.
they might eat fruit or vegetables or bugs or whatever, or nuts,
Mm,
but they're an orb. They pop into the tree, they get the energy from the sun, nutrients from the roots.
mm,
When they're fully charged, those trees are like their docking stations, and when they're fully charged, they pop back out of the tree, and then they do whatever they do at night or during the day. But
mm,
they don't. So therefore, Zor said, we're in the trees and the trees are everywhere. And I'm
mm.
like, okay, so how many of you are there on the planet? And he answered my question with a question. And he said, how many trees are there on the planet?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So then you consult the Google gods, and the Google gods say there's 4 to 7 trillion trees on the planet. So they don't have to be by a river or a lake or anything else. They have to be where the trees are.
Okay. Right. So they must have, on their home world, because you're talking that they originally came from another world, right?
Correct.
Okay. So their world must have had um, something akin to trees,
Yeah.
or
Yes,
yeah,
they
is that
did.
right?
Yeah. They I had a vision when I was sleeping up at camp the that day before we had the exodus occur at the Southern Oregon interaction area, Soya. And they were flying me over their home planet, and it was full of forest and big pine trees. And then they flew me up the coastline along the beach and the blue ocean, and it was, undeveloped like our planet. Our planet is developed
Mm,
in a lot of places, although we have a lot of land where it's still not developed. But nevertheless, when I'm flying over all these trees and the beach and the ocean, and it's just beautiful. And then slowly the vegetation started to die, started getting dark and scraggly. The sky started turning red.
mm.
And then, they kind of showed me how their world was dying. Well, when Adam Davies, John Carlson, and myself saw the portal and the red sky and the dark, scraggly vegetation, that was their home world we were looking at.
Oh, was it through
Yes.
the portal?
Yes.
Okay. Right now, as I understand it, because I was listening to a podcast of Adam Davis, and he was saying that they went to the let's have a look. What's it called? I'm so sorry about this. I should have remembered it. It's a circular. Is it the SOHA? SOA.
Yes, SOHA, Southern Oregon Habituation Area.
Yep, Southern Oregon Habituation Area, SOA. Yep, they went there, and there was John Carlson, and Adam Davis with yourself, right?
Yes.
And as I understand it from what he was saying, and this was intriguing because anything to do with portals, like what really, So he said that you all landed there. It's a hell of a trail to get to. Luckily, they're in your Land Cruiser, and you got up there, um, and it's so narrow on the way up. But if you look to one side, you can see a sheer drop down as you're driving up. It's like kind of you've got to be a hell of a good driver. So you must be a good driver, Dr. J. So as you're going up, and then you get to the top where the SOA is, and park up, you camp up. First night, they were expecting immediate results. From the way it sounded, they're expecting, oh, right, we're here. Brilliant. Bring on the Xanue. Where are they? Nothing really happened. You said to them at the time that, on the first night, there's not going to be very much happening, okay? Because, you're in their territory. So don't expect them to do singing and dance routines on the peripheral edge of the SOA encampment. Nothing much happened on the first night.
Not
You did,
true. Not true. Not true.
no?
No, I did say that. I did say don't expect much to happen on the first night because that is the norm. However, we sat down in the dark, no campfires, no lanterns, no flashlights, no torches, whatever you want to call them. And we're in the dark. We sit down 30 seconds later from the 11 o'clock position on the perimeter. You hear a very loud, oh! And Adam Davies almost went backwards in his chair and he goes, oh my God, did you hear that? And then it went crazy the rest of the night. I have all those nights recorded. The first 2 nights of camp were just crazy from the 9 o'clock to the 12 o'clock to the 3 o'clock position on the perimeter. And that's why on the third night, they were on the other side of the Suburban because they couldn't handle all that activity. And they were telling nervous jokes and laughter. And that's how they ended up at the 6 o'clock position, walking away from the area where all the activity was. And then they triggered the portal because they had the residual energy on their body.
Okay, right. Were
That's
you
what
surprised? Were you surprised, Dr. J, that they were so twitchy? They were so twitchy about it because I mean, Adam Davis is quite a seasoned, cryptozoologist, and he
he is on TV. Yes, he is quite seasoned on TV. But when
I
you
was
bring him to camp and the rubber hits the road, they were both very scared and very
right.
anxious. And they weren't there for the activity. They were there to bust me for hoaxing, which I don't hoax. I don't lie. Everything I had been reporting was 100% truthful and accurate. And they were coming to camp to prove that I was hoaxing. They didn't tell me that, but that's what I heard from others. And then they got overwhelmed with activity those first 2 nights. And then you throw the portal on the last 2 nights. And my 7-year-old boy at that time, 10 years ago, was up there on the 4th night. And they couldn't believe that I was bringing my boy up there to die because we were all going to die. And I'm like, stop it. We're not going to die. And they couldn't believe that I was going to go to sleep because we're all going to die. And I'm like, you know what? I drive you guys around during the day. We go see Crater Lake. We go see the Redwood Forest. You guys are napping in the car while I'm driving.
Yeah, yeah,
You get
yeah.
your rest, right? And so then we get back up to camp and I'm exhausted because I haven't slept all day. I haven't napped. And now you want me to stay up all night and I've been up here for 8 years and I've never died. We're not going to die. And
Okay.
so I gave him my gun. We climbed into bed. And on that night, before we climbed into bed on the fourth night, my 7-year-old boy leaned over to me, whispered in my ear, and said, "Dad, they're acting like two scared little girls." And I said, "Grady, you need to be nice. They've never been up here before. We've been up here for a long time. So just cut them some slack. Let's go to bed."
I get what you're saying, and in your defense, it was nice of you, because during the day it is usually, whenever you go in the woods in the day, my experience anyway, it is a lot slower than nighttime. Nighttime, the cryptids I kind of like go hunting for are more active, much more active at night.
Exactly.
So it was nice of you to take them out and to go to different places, um, because it's a long drive going down there. It's a long drive getting back, and also it's just nice. You treated them very much as guests, which is great.
Well, Adam came all the way over from England. John came from New Jersey, and we're right there in like Crater Lake is like if you're in the Pacific Northwest, you have to see Crater Lake. You have to see the redwood forest.
Mm,
And so it was like nothing really happens during the day. So I'll take the guests to go see some very beautiful parts of the
mm,
Pacific Northwest. And they enjoyed it. But I got, when the whole truth came out a year later, I got hammered by people about how could you go to sleep? And it was like,
mm.
I had to.
Well,
They napped during the day. They got their
yeah,
sleep. I
well,
got none. I had to
yeah.
sleep.
Like, can we
And
get
that
the?
also lets you know how scared I was, right? That I could
Mm,
go to sleep and my boy could go to sleep while
mm.
they're freaking out with my 44 meg.
Listen, Dr. J, can we get the? I think what gives more of a picture for people at home is the timeline of. Let's concentrate on the portal bit. So the timeline on the first night, the portal didn't arrive. Correct. The second night, the portal didn't arrive. It was the
Because
third
we were all up in the 9 to 12 to 3 o'clock position on the perimeter looking that way, and the portal was behind us the other way
on the 6 o'clock
on the
position.
6 o'clock position. Yes.
Okay, so on the third night, it was then that was it Adam Davis or was it John Colson that saw it first on
Well,
the
they
third
were
night?
both on the other side of the Suburban, ignoring the main part of the base camp where all the Bigfoot activity was. They were overwhelmed. So they were
Okay,
back there smoking their backwoods cigars, telling jokes, laughing, and they started going for a little walk down that logging road where the 6 o'clock position is, and
mm.
that's when they triggered the portal together.
Right. They triggered the portal, then they shouted after you, right?
Yep, they did. And I was
Okay.
annoyed because I couldn't see a portal because I was on the other side of the Suburban and I'm telling them to get back here. This is what you came up here for, So I
Mm.
was a little miffed. And because I also knew they were coming up to bust me for hoaxing, which I wasn't hoaxing.
Okay.
And they were ignoring everything. So anyway, I eventually got up out of my chair, walked around the Suburban, and that's when I saw the portal.
Okay. Right. Let's get your angle on the portal. What did it look like, Mr. J?
It was round and it was probably 12, 15 feet in diameter, and you could look through it and see scraggly vegetation, kind of black, and red sky behind it, and then 2, 3 foot tall, 3.5 foot tall uh, guardians with glowing red eyes were there to, more or less keep us from going through. And then
Okay.
Adam Davies and John Carlson were like kids with a garage door opener. They opened the portal, then they took their flashlights, shined it on the portal, which shut it down. And
Mm,
then they walked close to the portal with the energy. They didn't know they had the energy. I didn't know they had the energy. Took me
mm,
a year to figure out that that's what opened it up. But nevertheless, they walk closer. Portal opens up. They back off. They shine the flashlight. It shuts down. And they kept being little kids with the garage door opener, opening it up, closing it down, opening it up, closing it down. And they were pissing off the guardians. And then they talk smack to the guardians, kind of like, just kind of yelling at them and being disrespectful. So the guardians kind of did an aggressive lunge towards them to get them to back off. They never
mm.
touched them. They never hurt them. They never tried to kill them. But Adam and John were freaking out and assuming the worst, which is why I walked past them with my gun, the 44 mag. And they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, trying to get them to calm down. So I walk down there and I say, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." I had no idea who I was or what I was dealing with at that time. And I
Mm.
go, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And if you don't back off, I'm going to stick my 44 mag down your throat and blow your head off." And then
Mm.
I turned around and I walked back towards John and Adam and I laid my gun down on the table and I said, "Okay, here's the gun. I'm going to bed." And I went to
Okay.
bed because I needed to sleep.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Do a lot of times, the word of Jesus will work for a start, but if
But
you
they weren't
ever,
demons. They weren't demons, and that didn't mean anything. And I didn't think they were demons. I did all that to just simply try to calm Adam and
mm,
John down. That's all
okay,
I
why
did.
were they? Why do you think? Why do you think they were kept poking the pig? Why did they keep poking it?
You mean open, close, open, close,
Yeah, yeah,
open,
they were
close?
poking the pig all the while. Like that,
Well,
What?
I mean, think about it. It's not much different than a young kid with a garage door opener for the
Mm,
first time. Open, close, open, close, open, close, right? You're curious. And, it's not every day you see a portal up in the mountains and
no.
with two little guardians. So I think they were just curious.
Yeah, but most people, their flight, fight or flight, they would flight. If they saw two 3 foot, 4 foot aliens or
Well,
or or entities,
the
entities.
flight the flight would be down the 6 o'clock position in the vehicle down the road where the portal was. So if you flight, you might go through the portal. So there was no where to flight.
Oh, it was cutting you off. It was cutting you off
Well,
from your vehicle.
I wouldn't say it was just where it was positioned.
Mm, okay.
And there was just we were stuck in base camp. There was nowhere to go. And as I said before, I had been up there for 8 years and I had
Mm,
seen the light in front at the 12 o'clock up high in the trees flash, right? And I would
yeah.
always turn my head to think, "Oh, a car is coming up the logging road to the 6 o'clock position," but there was no car. Nevertheless, we would have the flashing light at the top of the trees. Well, apparently, one plus one equals two. For the last 8 years, when I would see the flash, that's when the portal would open and close.
Okay. But was it a white, just like a flashlight flash? Was there
So,
anything
yeah,
particular about the flash?
no, it was just very bright light up high in the trees in front of us when we're looking at the 12 o'clock position. But I concluded. And the reason why I could go to sleep, number one, I had to because I hadn't had any sleep. I needed to sleep because I was going to drive them around again the next day. But
Yeah.
I also concluded I've been up here for 8 years. I've seen the flash. I've seen the flash. I've seen the flash. It had to have been the portal. And I've been there for 8 years, sleeping out in the open under the stars on a cot, no tent, no camper, never woke up dead. I'm fine. We're fine. We have
Right.
nothing to worry about. We're fine. I'm going to bed. I even tried to tell them to go to bed, and they said, "No, we'll die." So I went to bed.
Sometimes, do you know what? Sometimes by walking away, it almost, walking away, and in a way, kind of, it's going on, but just walk away, put it from you. It dispels it. It kind of, it won't. If you keep poking it, it's gonna do something. It's gonna just generate more animosity. It's gonna say they obviously wanted you to go to sleep. I think they obviously wanted you out of the way, if you like. You know.
I I think if John and Adam would have just listened to me and go to bed, we would have all had a nice night of
Mm.
rest. And matter of fact, that fourth night when I brought Grady, because I wanted Grady to see the portal and I wanted Grady to see the Guardians.
Hmm.
Um,
Grady's your
they-
son.
huh? Yeah, and he
Grady.
he
Okay.
was 7 at that time. He's 17 now, but
Mm.
I wanted him to experience it. How many other kids on the planet Earth are going to experience a portal with guardians and the Bigfoot at camp? So I
Yeah.
wanted him to experience that. And that next morning, it was time to retrieve the gifting bowls. And so we went out and we brought them back to camp. The table was at the 12 o'clock position. We put the gifting bowls there were fingerprints, and the bread products were missing, and we had the parabolic microphone dish on that table right at the 12 o'clock position on the base camp. And I was still recording, and we had a big box of 4 Cinnabon rolls, which are very tasty. I don't know if they have Cinnabon rolls over in the UK, but they're Cinnabon
No.
rolls. They're awesome, and they have a frosting on the top. So
Yeah, I've had
we
them. I've had them when I was
we
on the
had a
Lake Anneith
box,
base. Mm.
4 rolls waiting for us. We went back to bed to get a couple more hours of sleep because John and Adam had been up all night. So we wake up probably about 2 hours later, and we go back over to the table because we're going to open up the box and we're each going to have a Cinnabon roll. Well, the rolls are gone. The rolls are gone. And the box is on the table and the lid is closed. Tell me what animal, what critter, what bird's going to do that? The box had been opened. They took out the 4 rolls. They closed the lid and left the box on the table.
Yeah, interesting.
Later
Interesting.
on, I went home and listened to the recording, and I had them recorded taking the Cinnabon rolls and being all happy about it.
Okay. Interesting, isn't it? It just, so, do you know what? Dr. J is like kind of, you hear so many kind of like accounts, from people, and everything is like kind of altered or messed around with. And that's what I wanted. And I appreciate your honesty and in telling me what went on, because it's been sort of bugging me for a little while now, But no,
I
I
have
appreciate
the
your
whole
honesty.
thing recorded. If you want to go to SoundCloud and go to the Team Squatch in USA channel, there are snippets of it right there that you can listen to what happened that night.
Mm,
And
okay.
I'm telling you the truth, and I have the recordings to back me up.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, I'll put all the links. If you send us a link, I'll put all the links on the bottom anyway for people. As long as we can have links to your books and other things. But I'm going to ask you about your books in a minute. But one thing is also I wanted to ask about. I don't know if you know this. You probably will. Um, the Xanue follow Christian beliefs, right? Am I right?
They believe in God, believe in Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and the Garden of Eden is not on the earth. The Garden of Eden is its own planet where God creates all life forms, and they're all tested like Adam and Eve were. And they either pass the test or they fall like Adam and Eve did. When Adam and Eve fell, they were locked into their meat sacks, which is why you and me and everybody else are locked into our meat sacks. Where the Xanue and other species passed the test, they didn't fall. They didn't eat of the tree that they were told not to eat of, and therefore they remained in the created body that God gave them, which allows them to go in and out of orb form and feed in trees, and allows them to vibrate at the higher frequency. And in the New Testament, Jesus said if we had the faith the size of a mustard seed, we could do what he did and more, where the Xanue have faith the size of a coconut seed, and they can definitely do what he did and more, including healing by faith in Christ.
Okay. And the Xanue have been around for how long?
They first came over to the earth 65 million years ago during the last period of our dinosaurs.
Okay. So I'm not asking this. I'm not here to trip anyone up. I'm definitely not here to trip you up. This is just me and I've got an inquisitive mind, Dr. J, right? So Christianity wasn't about then. Not for a long time. There wasn't any religion about for a long time. Not that long ago. But why wait until roughly 2,000 years ago to then? Did they have a religion before? Did they have their own planet's religion? Did they have?
Okay, so I'm going to back you up and say, once again, this is what Zorth told me. The Garden of Eden, where all life forms start, where they're created and they're tested, is its own planet. God creates all life forms on that planet, and they're tested, and they're all given the same test. You may eat of any tree except from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Stay away from that tree. The species that he creates that pass the test go on to their designated planets that God gives them to live their lives like the Xanue did. And then the species that fail the test also get sent on to their planets, but we are locked into our meat sacks. So it all starts on the Garden of Eden, the planet, and then they go through portals to their home world. In Genesis, Adam and Eve were booted out of the garden, and then an angel with a flaming sword was there to protect the gate to keep them from coming back to the garden, i.e., he was there guarding the portal entrance so they couldn't go from Earth back to the planet, the Garden of Eden.
Okay.
So that religion, that God has been there for all species, created all species on that planet, sent all species from the Garden of Eden planet to their own planets. So it's one God, one Christ, one Holy Spirit for the whole universe.
Okay. So I didn't want it to turn into I'm not saying this so it turns into a
telling you what Zorth told me. That's all.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. I didn't want it turning into like a happy clapping episode. So I just sort of like was interested. So basically when you talk about Christian, Christian beliefs, as it were, with the Xanue,
that would be our world. That would be our world.
That would be our world.
But the same God, the same Jesus, the same Holy Spirit exists in all the worlds.
In all the world. So yeah, okay. So it's basically it's a interpretation on our world of Jesus, our God, and Holy Spirit. Yeah, the Trinity in our realm. Okay, 3 in 1. That's it. We got it. But on their world, where they had a world of Garden of Eden on their world, it was exactly the same. Is that what you're saying? It was exactly the same.
They went from the Garden of Eden to their home world because, again, we all are created on the planet of the Garden of Eden, and then we're tested, and then we get sent to the worlds that God wants us to go to, and we go there having passed the test, or we go there having flunked the test. If we flunk the test, we're locked into our meat sacks. If they pass the test like the Xanue did, then they're still walking in fellowship with God, and with Jesus and the Holy Spirit. We failed the test. We need a Savior. Jesus came to die on the cross for our sins and shed his blood for our sins so we could have salvation through him. On the Xanue planet, there was no need for a sacrifice because they didn't fall. They are just walking in fellowship with God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit like we were all intended to do. The Trachon are a fallen species and are locked into their meat sacks. So when people say they saw Bigfoot walk off a UFO or onto a UFO, that's not the Xanue, that's the Trachon. If they talk about people being kidnapped, people being killed by a Bigfoot, that's not the Xanue, that's the Trachon. And then Dogman species, we've had them up at our camps.
Have you?
There are unfallen dogmen who are like the Xanue, who can go into orb form in the trees and pop out. I've had them filmed transitioning out of a tree. And then there's the dogmen who are locked into their meat sacks because that species fell. And that's why they're kind of evil, like the
Yeah.
Trachon are.
Yeah.
And so the Xanue
Okay.
will have very little, if anything, to do with UFOs and aliens that fly the UFO crafts because they're fallen species. Because if you're going to travel from point A to point B
Yeah.
and you're a fallen species, you're going to need an artificial environment. You're going to need a spacecraft, a UFO, where the Xanue don't need an artificial environment. They can travel through portals in orb form.
Okay. Right. Thank you for explaining that. Wow, that's going to take a little bit to sink in. That's a lot of information. Thank you, Dr.
Everything
J.
I'm telling you is what Zorth told me.
Yeah, thank you. Um, uh, just a, I've got to ask this. What are, do you know the teepee structures? I see an awful lot of like teepee structures and structures in the wood. Sometimes they have like a little stump in the middle of them. What are they for? Do you know? Have the Xanue told you what they're for? These teepee structures and
There's a portal nearby, not in the TP structure, but there's a portal nearby.
okay, that's what they're for. It's like a marker then. What I'm seeing
Yes,
when I come across them, they're markers.
there's a portal nearby,
Okay.
not
Do the
in the
Jean-
TP structure.
okay, right, there's a put so they are like kind of you know when we see I often see trees which about 7 maybe 8 foot up and they're broken, physically broken,
Yes,
about 7 8 foot up, and
yes,
they're in the middle of a forest, Dr.
yes,
J, and they're kind of, you think to yourself, hang on, they're shielded from the wind because they're in the middle of a
right.
forest. What happens? Why do they do that?
Markers. They're just marking their territory. Because there's other species out there. We, through our portal this past year, 2024, we've been having other species come through the portal on our property. And I've gone out there because I've been asked to go out into the front yard where we have a bunch of trees. And by the way, we live on a mountaintop in the state
Uh,
of Washington, and we have 61 acres of forested property. And we drive up a logging road that's over a half-mile long to get to the top of our mountain. And then we're surrounded by thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of forest. So anyway, these other alien species are coming through the portal on our property and they're kind of dispersing. And I've been asked to go outside and take pictures. And I have some incredible pictures that look like a Star Wars barroom scene.
right.
Yeah.
A Star Wars bathroom scene.
Yeah, you know the movie Star
I know the
Wars.
movie. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
in the bar room where all the different alien species are.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so we have Xanue interacting with other unfallen species who are all coming through the portal.
Okay, right. Do you do
Boom.
you know? Yeah, that's like kind of wow, wow.
Uh-huh.
Do you know? Dr. J, do you know what's going on with the? Do you know? Because you're quite you're a learned man. What was your opinion on all these drones going on at the moment?
Um, there's been a war going on multiple levels. Think of a multiple chessboard. We have good humans versus the bad humans, which white hats versus the black hats, or the white hats versus the deep state, the cabal, the new world order. Okay. Then we have it going on at the alien level with the unfallen species versus the fallen species. And then we have it going on at the spiritual level with God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, and angels versus Satan and his demons. And there's kind of a battle royale going on for the planet and for humanity, bad intentions versus good intentions. And the drones, to my knowledge, what I have been told is that they're kind of, first of all, they're not just over New Jersey, they're over several parts of the US and I believe beyond. And the good guys are using it to try to find the radioactive materials that would be in a suitcase nuke or a
Hmm.
bomb, because the deep state doesn't want Trump elected as president. They don't want him inaugurated on the 20th of January. And they've lost all their options. They expected to win and they got, their butts kicked big time.
Hmm.
And by the way, Zorth predicted on the night of November 3rd, 2020, that in the end, Trump would win. And for 4 years, he's had me post 1,000,000 times online, in the end, Trump wins. In the end, Trump
Wow.
wins. In the end,
Yeah.
Trump wins. Right? And
Yeah.
so in the end, November 5th, 2024, Trump wins. But then Zorth said, this is not the end. This is the beginning of the end. Please pray, please prepare, please remain peaceful. Okay?
Okay.
Because it's going to get worse before it gets better. And the deep state, the cabal, the New World Order, the black hats are possibly going to set off a nuke and try to blame Russia or Iran, when they're just trying to create a distraction and keep Trump from stepping into office on January 20th. Um,
Uh,
so we have drones up there trying to find those suitcase nukes. And then we also have the black hats flying their drones trying to do a psyop on the American population to prepare us for their fake alien invasion with our man-made flying machines in the Project Bluebeam, where they
hmm.
fake a lot of crap up in the sky, making it look real.
Yeah.
But the whole
Mm.
thing is to try to capture the population, take down America, prevent Trump from taking office, so they could win and we all get screwed.
Right. Okay. Wow. Okay. Blimey. Um, yeah, it's a strange one because I wondered why they didn't. They've stopped people from shooting at them now, and they said, look, no shooting, no flying your own drones because we can't differentiate between whatever's flying and people copycat droning. So they've stopped flying now. People they've been asked not to fly any drones until the 17th of January. So they're just trying to nail down. But it's it's quite impressive, really, that they have no idea, the government, or they're saying they have no
Well,
idea
they
what
know what it
they're doing.
is. They're lying.
Hmm.
Our government has lied about a lot of stuff for a
Yeah,
long time.
yeah,
They don't know who assassinated JFK. Are you freaking kidding me? You guys
hmm,
know who did it. You guys
yeah,
were behind doing it. And the reason why they took out JFK 60 years ago was because he was aware of the deep state and he was going to take them down, and he was going to blow the CIA away and, into 1,000 splinters. And they didn't like that idea, so they took him out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's it. I mean, it's 'cause it was Trump said that he will release papers, won't he? Papers which have been classified over that.
Right. Over a
Yeah.
lot of things. He's going to
Mm,
release a lot of information about a lot of things. And
yeah.
they're afraid. They don't, you've got Epstein, the list, you've got P. Diddy and his list, and they don't want the truth to come out.
No, of
And,
course not. No.
the
Mm,
good guys are winning. The
yeah.
good side, the white hats, are winning. And it's
Mm,
all culminating. But it's like Zor said, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but it is going to get better. And so Zorth has never been wrong with his predictions. The Xanue are able to look down multiple timelines and
mm,
predict with a high degree of probability the outcome, and they've never
mm,
been wrong. And I might add, in light of that, on my birthday, October 30th, Zorth told me to download a cryptocurrency app and buy XRP. And he told me to buy a certain amount before Trump gets elected on November the 5th.
mm,
And I'm like, okay. So 3 days later, he asked me, did you do it? And I'm like, no. And he goes, why not? I said, I don't know anything about cryptocurrency or how to do it. And he was like, you're a smart guy, figure it out, get it done, get that, you know, XRP purchased before Trump is elected on the 5th. So I did it. And then a month after Trump was elected on the 5th, which Zorth had been predicting for 4 years, okay,
mm,
4 years,
mm,
okay, my investment that he told me to get went up 500%. And the XRP is predicted to just skyrocket in the near future. So if your audience is wise, they'll listen to Zorth and
mm,
they'll download a cryptocurrency app and they'll get their XRP
mm.
before it's no longer affordable.
Do you know? There's a story I've got. I was told to buy because I had an app for cryptocurrency. The app I use is Coinbase.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I use that. But I was told to. This is ages ago to buy Dogecoin. So I was advised. I said, "Oh, you want to buy it?" And I looked, and it's really cheap. It's like about at the time it was about I don't know, it was about 8 pence a coin. Really, really cheap. And I thought, well, if there must be so many trillions kind of mine coins that it's not worth anything. Why would I buy that? Anyway, I bought a load of them. I bought a fair few of them. And yeah, that's just gone up and up and up and up and up and up. That's the currency of choice for Elon Musk, isn't it?
Well, okay, so here's the deal. Doge, I'm not your financial advisor, but I am going to share what I've learned. And Doge is just a coin. There's no utility to it. There's no utility to Bitcoin.
Mm,
There is utility to XRP. XRP is going to be to the financial transfer of cryptocurrency around the world between financial institutions, businesses, and governments, like Windows. Microsoft Windows is to our computers, allowing us to do this show,
mm,
right? So
yeah.
imagine being in on the groundwork of Microsoft, buying it pennies on the dollar, and then it takes off. You're a multimillionaire, if not a billionaire, right? So
Mm,
XRP has utility. XRP has been approved by the New York Stock Exchange as of last week, and
mm,
BlackRock, the biggest financial investment company in the planet with $14 trillion of assets, just dumped $9 trillion into XRP 4 days ago.
mm. I'll tell you what else I've heard they've done as well, BlackRock. Evidently, they're going to invest to rebuild Ukraine as well.
Yeah. So I'm just saying a lot of governments, everything, and most importantly to me, Zorth told me to do it. So I'm doing it. And
Okay.
I
Yeah.
asked him, well, what about other coins? And he said, go all in on XRP. Don't do anything
Yeah.
else. Go in all in on XRP. And I'm like,
Mm,
okay, that's like really weird because in 25 years, just for the record, I've never been directed to do anything financially by the Xanue at all.
mm,
Um, my wife and a couple friends speculate that that's the Xanue's way of saying thank you for the 25 years I put in and for helping them with the Exodus, bringing their remaining family members and friends over from their dying home world to the earth. And so that's just their way of saying thank you.
yeah.
So
No,
I'm
that's
just
lovely.
passing on information. That's what Zorth told me.
Mm,
Everyone's got free will, make up your own mind.
mm.
But I'm going all in on XRP at the direction of Zorth and the Council of 12.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you either. And I mean, I'm going to stick to Dogecoin because I must admit, because I bought a load of it, and I think it's going to be Elon Musk's choice. But I think it's a new evolving cryptocurrency, and I think we're going to see an awful lot with Musk in charge. We're going to see an awful lot more adaptations to accept cryptocurrency. It's going to be the norm rather than notes and coins and blah blah blah. There's going to be more crypto out there that people accept.
90% of candidates in our U.S. elections who were backed by cryptocurrency were elected. Trump is a pro-cryptocurrency president. Um,
Mm,
Cryptocurrency, the market, everything is going to be replacing the old financial system. And so, for people caught up in the old system and the stock markets and everything else, who are old school, they need to stay up with the times, and they need to download a cryptocurrency app. And there's a lot of them out there. You mentioned Coinbase. I
mm,
have crypto.com. There's Robinhood. There's other options out
mm.
there.
Yeah.
And they need to start investing, diversify their portfolio.
Yeah, I think, like my grandma said, a little of something, yeah, a little of something doesn't hurt you. So, she said, basically, whatever you fancy, have a little bit of it, and it doesn't hurt you. So, I think people diversifying and trying, I think, is not a bad thing.
Right.
So I've got another question for just about, it's going away from the crypto a bit, but when you hear the wood knocks in the forest. Has Zorf ever told you what they mean? And are those wood knocks, or are they? Because I've been out in the forest and I've tried to mimic them. Dr. J, I've gotten hold of a branch and I've tried to whack the crap out of a tree like a baseball bat, and I can't mimic that same sound that I've heard of the wood knocks. Is it something that they make using their mouth like a bullfrog does?
It's a tree pop.
Right?
It's not a wood knock, it's a tree pop. Remember when I told you in orb form they go inside the trees
Yeah.
and then they eventually come back out of the trees?
Yeah.
It's a tree pop.
Ah.
They're coming out of the trees.
Oh, got you. Oh, I see. Right. Okay. That's the sound they make when they, right. Okay.
When
When they
they
come
exit
in.
the trees.
Yeah. Ah. Oh, that's something I hadn't thought about. I hadn't thought about that at all. No.
Again, anything I tell you is not based on my theory, my speculation, my guesses, my hunches. Everything
Mm,
I'm sharing with you and your audience is from Zorth. And
okay.
just so your audience knows, the Council of 12 for the Xanue consists of 2 members from each habitable continent, minus Antarctica, because it's not habitable. There's no trees there. And so there's a total of 12. They elect their leader amongst themselves, has to be unanimous. They chose Zorth. And they're pretty much overseeing the entire Xanue population on the planet. But every place has families. Families belong to tribes, and tribes belong to regions, and regions belong to continents. And so everything
Okay.
I'm in, and they, the Council of 12, asked me after the Exodus to be the 13 to be the 13 to
Okay. Yeah.
be their
Yeah.
spokesperson and to share with the world what they want me to share. So anyway, long story short, it's not my opinion. I'm sharing what Zorth is asking me to share with everybody else. It's what they're
Mm.
saying.
If God forbid anything was to happen to you, would the communication be cut off? Do they have anyone else? Do you have anyone else to actually take over? Is there anyone that they would approve of if anything happened to you?
They intend, and I've talked with him about it. They intend for my youngest son to take over
Okay.
down the road, not immediately. I'm going to be around for a little while, but down the
Mm.
road. And Grady was there for the discovery of the portal at SOA. Grady was there at the Exodus when we had 23,542 souls come over. Matter of fact, that night I put him to bed. He was 9 at the time. And, we're up in the mountains, as I shared, 5,500 foot elevation, no campfires, no lanterns, no flashlights. I put him into bed, his sleeping bag on the cot. I walk back over the chairs and he's screaming at me, Dad, there's something in my bag
Mm.
down by my foot. And I'm like, oh boy. So now I'm running over to his sleeping bag. And in my head, I'm developing a real quick game plan. I'm going to unzip his bag, fold the top flap over, and I'm going to grab that rodent or that snake, and I'm going to chuck it into the woods. Right? So when I get to his bag and I unzip and I fold the flap over, there's an orb the size of my fist down by his foot. And the orb goes up his leg to his hip, and then it goes up in the air about 20 feet. It hangs there for about 30 seconds, and then it zips into the forest. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, Grady, you're not going to forget this night for as long as you live. And he goes, no, Dad, I'm not. And I said, you're the only kid on the planet who was there at SOA when the portal was discovered and who was here when the Exodus occurred. There's no other
Okay.
kid on the planet. You're
No.
that kid.
Okay. Yeah. Special kid. Special
Yeah.
kid. There's another event I don't know very much about, but I've heard kicking about. People have been kicking a can down the street, as it were, about it. The Laurie Simmons tree. Can you explain what happened there? Laurie Simmons tree.
So Laurie Simmons was a fiance of Adam Davies. And so she asked me to come up and check out her area and the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took my parabolic dish with me, and we drove to the area where the tree was. We parked the car, we walked there. And as we're walking in, I'm capturing, and I don't hear this till later after I go home and start listening to the recording, but I'm hearing whispering, voices going on. And then we get to the tree, and there's the knock, knock, knock coming from inside the tree. Well, she's not of mind of realizing that they can be in the trees, and the trees are everywhere. She's thinking they're in a cave, a dugout cave underneath the tree, and she thinks it's coming from underneath the tree. And So I'm still recording, and I'm getting the thump thump, and I'm getting to Xanue talking with each other, and then I'm trying to get her to get closer to the tree because she's very scared, and so I just kind of gently nudge her toward the tree, and then there's growling, and that I did hear, and she heard, and I think they were a little miffed at me that I was kind of nudging her towards the tree. And so I stopped and she backed up a little bit, and we're talking about this. And I believe this is also SoundCloud.com Team Squatching USA channel. Pretty sure it's there. Your listeners can go check it out. SoundCloud.com Team Squatching USA channel. And so she and I are talking about it, and then I say, "Can we experiment? Can I try doing that again?" And she goes, "Yes." So I kind of start nudging her back towards the tree again, and then the growling commences again because they don't like me making her afraid. And so I stopped, but got the response we were looking for, which is they're there, they were in the tree, and they're very protective of her. They have a relationship with her, and they were protecting her.
Okay. They were protecting Laurie Simmons.
Yes. Yeah. This was right around 2014, right after the portal with Adam Davies and John Carlson. And so, yeah, that was about 10 years ago.
Okay, right. So yeah. So basically, they were protecting her from you. They were growling at you
Well,
to stay away.
from the fact that I was nudging her toward the tree, trying to help her overcome her fear that there was nothing to worry about. She was all anxious. And so the fact that I was nudging her toward the tree to try to help her overcome her fear, but nevertheless the anxiety level was high, they started growling, more or less saying, "Dude, back off, quit nudging her towards the tree. Quit."
See, that's strange, isn't it? Isn't that odd? That's odd. That is so odd. What was going through the Xanue's head? Did they think that you meant harm?
Okay, well, first of all, 10 years ago, I didn't have the relationship with them that I developed 2 years after that by 2016. So I didn't know then what I know now. And I certainly at that time was not the 13. The Exodus hadn't happened yet. I had not been invited to be the 13 by the Council of 12 yet. So all they knew was Laurie Simmons was their friend at that spot with that tree. And I was just trying to nudge her closer to help her overcome her fear. I mean, she was like terrified, petrified. She was, and I'm like, "There's nothing to be afraid of. You're fine. Nothing's going to happen."
Yeah. What was your feelings when you heard that growl? What was your feelings went through?
It was cool. It was like, wow, the tree's growling. This is cool. And I have it on recording. And, once again, SoundCloud.com, Team Squatching USA. Go listen to it.
Okay. Did they? But when you heard the growl, because I've heard growls, I've heard hundreds of growls. But there's a difference. Sort of, when I hear a growl, I remember being in Camberwell Cemetery, and you'll love that video if you watch it. And I've got a Dogman actually morphing out. Yeah, so it kind of like morphs out like Predator. So I got it on video, but I've got a growl at the same time, and that growl was like one that would back off. That was like, oh yeah, no, I'm taking that seriously. That type of growl. Was that the growl you heard? That type of growl, back off growl?
It was this kind of a, quit forcing her to the tree, quit trying to make her face her fears, quit elevating her anxiety.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, it's just thank you for being so honest about that. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. Because it just it clears up all these stories. I mean, you must get sick to death of all these stories and different kind of interpretations of stories floating around. I mean, it must be quite
There are
wearing on
trolls
you.
and haters out there, Phil, and
Mm,
there's all kinds of rumors. And the bottom line is that there isn't anybody out there, and I'm not saying there aren't people out there that don't have interactions, that don't have pictures, that don't have mind speak. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying nobody else out there is the 13. Nobody else out there speaks for the Xanue Council of 12. No one else out there has all the experiences I have. I'm not saying people don't have experiences. I'm saying
mm,
they don't have all the experiences I have, all the proof I have, all the
mm,
multiple witnesses I have. And
yeah,
so there's a lot
yeah,
of jealousy out there, Phil, and there's a
yeah,
lot of people who try to bring me down because they don't like the fact that they're not at the forefront.
yeah, yeah. I get that. I can fully understand that. I can fully understand that. And believe me, I'm not. I think I've seen one of those big suckers once in this country in Cannock Chase, a Bigfoot Xanue. I'm pretty sure, but I can't be 100% certain. But I was with my grandson at the time. But I pretty much think I did. I got that on video as well. But um, uh, when I joined, and I'm pleased I joined this. And I would recommend to people, to join it. It's called in England anyway. It's the Xanue UK Forum with Gordon Dodds. He's in
Yes,
charge of that one, and he's a lovely
yes.
guy. I interviewed him. He's a really lovely guy. Um, but one of the criteria for joining, which I never come across before, was Gordon said to me, "Okay, Phil, this was going to happen. Um, uh, um, seeing you online, seeing your interviews, and I think he was a bit suspicious of me because he thought I was had an ulterior motive. I didn't. I've got this, I'm like a sponge, Dr. J. I want to get at the truth like you do, so, well, the truth already, but I want to get at the truth in my genre of, cryptid hunting, if you like, investigation. Um, so I thought, well, I think a lot of things are related, and I wanted to join. So I joined. He said, uh, what Xanue has he got? He's got a Xanue as well. One's his one? What's the name of Gordon Dodd's
Ison,
Xanue? Was
Ison.
it Ison? That's it, Ison. And he said, Ison will visit you. And I was like, what? He said, yeah. I said, oh. And he asked if I got kids. He sort of asked if I got dogs. I said, yeah, I've got two dogs. They're very happy. So if Ison comes at too early in the morning, they'll be waking us up. It's going to be very. But it, a lot of people, I find, I've never come across that about a Facebook page where they, you actually, is that something which you do in the States as well? Do you do the same thing?
I have a Team Squatch in USA Facebook group, and then I have a Camp Xanue alumni chat thread, and uh, I have a Planet Xanue Facebook page as well. But
Hmm.
mainly, most of our activity occurs on the Camp Xanue alumni chat thread, where a lot of people that have gone up in the mountains with me years ago and or who've been coming to our summer camps, monthly summer camps, all
Hmm.
participate. And the cool
Yeah.
thing is Gordon came over to Oregon and went up in the mountains with me and some other guys to Soya after the Exodus, probably about a year after it. I think it was 2017. And, we had all kinds of experiences up there, and, it was blowing Gordon away in a very fun, positive way. And then near the end of the trip, Gordon asked me to ask Zorth if he could have a family waiting for him when he returned to England. And I
Okay.
asked Zorth, and Zorth said, yes, I will have a family waiting for you when you return home. And he got home, and there they were.
Okay. So Ison and his family were there waiting for Gordon Dodds when he came home
Yes.
and help and guide him.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, my question, I'll say it again. In the USA, when you have new members onto one of your pages or your page, do you send over a Xanue to go to their home and to vet them in their home?
No, do things a little differently here. What I do is I put out the books, I put out the YouTube video channel. I have a YouTube channel with almost 500 videos, and it's called Team Squatch in USA. That's the YouTube video channel. If
Mm.
your viewers want to learn anything and everything about Bigfoot, they'll go to my YouTube channel and they'll go to the very first one and they'll start watching all the videos from the oldest one to the newest one. And that will include testimonial videos of people who have come to our summer camps, because
Mm.
we put on summer camps May through September, and people can come and interact with the Xanue here. Once they
Mm.
get on the map with the Xanue here and they go back home can be anywhere in the US, Canada, or England. They go back home and they are on the Xanue map, and then they start getting their interactions
Okay, right.
once
Thank
they
you.
put forth the effort to come here first.
If you can send me all of those links, because this is recorded, so I can edit this, but if you could send me all of the relevant links, please, if you don't mind, Dr. J, I will post all of the links that you send me to the bottom of this video.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be excellent. And that way, because people are kind of like a little bit lazy and they'd rather, it's easier to click on the link than to
Yep.
write down what you say. So send me all the links, that'd be great.
Okay.
And also links for your book as well.
Great.
And I'll just do it. I'll start, if it's okay with you. I want to thank you very much for coming on. But I was going to do an outro. And because to be honest with you, I'm not being fun. I do have a meal to attend in a little while. We're going out for a Christmas meal.
Nice.
Um, yeah, it should be really nice. They're lovely people. They're like yourself. And do you know what? Let me tell you this. I've heard a lot of people say, different things, and I always say the same to them. Look, I'll be the judge. I just want to say, Dr. J, I think you are a genuine, very lovely man, and honest. And anyone that I will speak to me again and says, "Oh well, that Mathew Johnson," I'll say no. I will stick up for you. I'll say no, that's wrong, totally. I've spoken to him, and he's very, very credible. And the way you come across is so succinct, to the point, and it's just believable because it is honest. It's very, very difficult to lie and sound, especially when you're on video and your face and your features and everything else. I know you're talking the truth, and I thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I have always said, I don't lie, I don't hoax. If I said it happened, guess what? It happened.
Mm.
And everyone that actually takes the time to get to know me and or come out to camp, and camps are relatively cheap. We provide 3 meals a day and beverages, and that's all we're asking is money to cover that. We're not
Mm.
charging outrageous fees. The whole point is to get people hooked up with the Xanue.
Mm.
So I appreciate that compliment very much. Thank you.
That's great. Can I just ask for the audience watching, with the camp, if they want to book to go on to the camp, can you provide us with the details, the booking details, or a link for those? Uh,
Yeah, you asked me to provide you with links that you'll post down at the bottom, and
yeah.
the website is xanue.com, xanue.com, xanue.com.
Okay.
And there will be an opportunity to sign up online for camp, but we're not going to post the 2025 camp dates until sometime in late January, early February.
Okay.
So at that point, they can go online and pay $200 to attend, and that's Friday through Monday, covering all their meals and all their beverages.
Wow,
And
that's really good.
well,
That's
yeah, you
that's
take $200 and go
yeah.
get Friday, Saturday, Sunday dinners, lunches, and breakfast and beverages, and go out to all your restaurants and see if you can pull that off for
That
$200.
is really good. And I have heard, because I have seen the videos, to be honest with you. I have seen the videos, of guys that have been to your camp. And they all say the same thing. The cooking is superb. Your wife, isn't it, does the cooking, I believe.
Well, Cynthia plus some of the other girls at camp, they all kind
Ah,
of
they
team up
they rave
together.
about the cooking, rave
We have
about
a
it. So
bunch
I
of
would,
moms who are just putting
man,
out the food. Everybody eats like a king and a queen for $200. It's a
yeah.
deal. We're not
I mean,
raking in the money. This is not about making money.
no, no. I think for everyone out there, for the experience that Mathew offers, and the food as well. My God, everyone's raving about it. For the food, and just the company as well, because you're with like-minded people, which is always a good thing, because it can be a lonely thing, when you have experiences with I'm not talking about with Mathew, because Matthew's like kind of on another echelon, as I say. But it can be quite a lonely thing where a lot of people don't believe you that what you've seen. I've been through that, like many people have. So being with a group of people in a place like Camp Xanue, I would thoroughly recommend to anyone. I would love to go one day. I would love to go, and I will go one day, hopefully.
Good. We would love to
Matthew.
have you.
Ah, yeah, it'd be great.
But the
Yeah.
initiation night, we're going to tie you butt naked to a tree and cover you with honey and bacon grease.
Oh, why not?
Just kidding. Just kidding. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Just kidding.
Okay, right, yeah, yeah, and have a Xanue lick it off, I suppose. That'll be.
And have video cameras, right? Yeah, no, not happening.
Yeah,
Just
no, no. That'll be edited out. All
yep.
right, listen. I'd like to say, Mathew Johnson, thank you very much for coming onto the show, and I'm sure everyone at home is absolutely, and you've absolutely enjoyed this show. I've enjoyed this show. I'm sure the people at home have enjoyed this show, and also learnt so much as well. And you've put the record straight for a lot of people, and that's all we can hope for. And I just really want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for coming
Thank
on.
you. One last thing at the bottom right here, I have my email, bigfootdoctor@yahoo.com. If you want to
Okay.
reach out to me, just send me an email at bigfootdoctor@yahoo.com.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And everyone at home, a very happy Christmas and a happy, healthy New Year.
Merry Christmas.